Hi, welcome to my live stream. I'm just waiting for YouTube to start showing me that the stream is active, and we will get started with this Write With Me session. Let's see, it's coming up right now, and voila, I am live. Hi, my name is Aaron Linsdau. I'm an author, and I'm also writing under the pen name Aaron Belsing, doing my romance series. Right now I'm working on my Escape to Australia series, and the first book in this series is called Harbour Lights in Sydney. It's a romance based in Sydney with an American woman who arrives in Australia for a long extended stay for work, and she meets a hot Australian guy. Nothing wrong with that. We're going to start off with chapter 2 today, and this is how I write most of my books as I do dictation. I've just got the microphone hooked up to my iPad right here with the voice recorder app. Hopefully I don't knock off all my tech here, because that's always fun. And let's get started, shall we? All right. Harbour Lights in Sydney, Chapter 2. All right, my notes. Darla walked up to the Garfish restaurant, looking at the stone exterior and the crowd that was already forming to get into the restaurant. The harbor behind her was alive and moving with boats all around the area, and the traffic was zooming by. And that's one thing Darla noticed too, is the cars, even though they looked very American, they were just slightly different. British and Australian, she thought to herself. As she walked up the stone steps and held the railing, she saw that her friend and co-worker Tegan had already got a table. So when she walked in, Tegan saw her and waved at her, stood up, and Darla immediately said, "Hi, how's it going?" She called from across the room. There was enough noise in the space where Darla didn't worry about being loud. Tegan stood up and hugged her and said, "Oh, it's so good to see you again. It's been so many years." "Oh, thanks, Tegan. I really appreciate the chance to come to Australia and kind of be your surrogate." "Oh, I don't think you're going to have a rough time here." Darla took in the restaurant as she looked around with the open exhibition kitchen with the stainless wall behind them, behind the chefs. She's looked at the black chalk fresh fish board and said, "Wow, this place is incredible with the view of the harbor and everything. You sure know how to pick places, Tegan." "Sure do. Please sit down." Darla settled herself into the white resin seat as the cool resin felt comfortable against her back and her legs as she sat there with jeans and a white blouse on. She looked around and brushed her hands across the heavy butcher block style table with the chrome column holding it up. The table was solid, and there was already a crowd of people in there with energy. "Man, the seafood here looks incredible. I can't believe... Are you sure this is not too fancy of a restaurant?" Tegan shook her head and said, "Oh no, not at all." She was sitting there in a floral print blouse with khaki slacks, and she had her small crossbody purse in her lap, and said, No, this place isn't too fancy. It sure looks pretty though, doesn't it?" Darla leaned forward and said, "Absolutely. Even though I'm still totally jet lagged after flying in yesterday, I can't complain about the location. Thanks for the suggestion." Right then, a server walked up to her and to Tegan and Darla and asked, "Oh, what would you like to drink, ladies?" That's what I was saying. Tegan said, "Oh, do you mind if I make a suggestion? We've got some great Australian wines." "For lunch? Nice. said Darla. I think I'm liking this stuff already, or this place already. Tegan chose a wine, a 2-year-old Chardonnay, and she chose it for Darla and herself and said, we'll be sisters for a moment. This is the best stuff ever. The server excused herself and then walked away and said, Darla looked around at the gray stone tile against the server wall and the perfectly hung glasses over the bar. I can't believe there are places like this. I mean, Minneapolis has some nice places, but nice restaurants, but nothing like this. Tegan reached out and touched the woman's hand with her left hand, or Tegan's wedding band, touching cool against Darla's forearm. She looked down for a moment and paused and then looked back up. And Tegan continued, oh, this is nothing like where you're from in the middle of America. This Sydney world is completely different. You'll be taking a fast ferry to work, and that's a good ride. You'll go under the main bridge and past the opera house. You're going to love it. What do you think's the best thing to eat here? Darla asked Tegan. Oh, the fresh food is right on the chalkboard up there, and then they have the regular menus here. She picked up and showed Darla, but I prefer the fresh every time when I'm here. So I'll say, did you have much trouble getting around? Oh no, I didn't at all. Darla said, I've got Google Maps on my phone, so it seems to get me to places even if I went down some odd little neighborhoods. Tegan replied, but isn't Manly super cute? I mean, you've got the beach, and oh my gosh, what did you think of the, what was that place called? Boathouse at Shelley Beach yesterday. Oh my gosh, that was incredible. Just looking at the beach and watching the sunrise, I gotta get me some more of this. I think 8 weeks isn't gonna be enough. The server brought their glasses of wine and set them down, and then asked if they would like to order. Tegan nodded to Darla and she said, I think I'm going to try that gold band snapper on the chalkboard up there. Is that a good choice? The young woman said, oh, absolutely. They actually brought those in yesterday, so they're about as fresh as they can be here. I mean, that is what we're known for. You're not from here, are you? Darla shook her head and said, no, I'm from the United States. At that, the young server brightened up a smile. Her starch white shirt and her black slacks looking crisp, and she said, well, welcome to Australia. I hope you have a wonderful time here. Tegan ordered the chicken breast, and the young woman departed. I can't believe the view you have of this place. I mean, Manly, it's like everything has a ocean view. Isn't that the case here? And Darla said, a lot of times you'd be surprised. Some people take the inner city restaurants, and not everything has to be on the beach and in the water, but it certainly doesn't hurt as an intro to Sydney, doesn't it? Tegan said no, and I definitely had a good time dancing yesterday. You went dancing? What do you mean? Tegan asked. Well, there was this super hot guy. I was walking towards the cafe that you told me about, and there was construction right by this building, and it made it like a real pinch point. And I came around the corner and almost literally walked into him. I wouldn't have minded if he walked it completely into me, too. Tegan shook her head and said, you're already hot on some Australian hunk. The guy literally had the accent like like the crocodile hunter, but not as academic. He's much more. Let's see, what was that? Let's see. He's much more like Paul Hogan, just that rugged sort of guy look. But gosh, he looks super fit with his athletic shirt and jogging shorts and shoes. I mean, this guy was put together. Great. So now you've already got a boyfriend, you weren't even here a year? Or a day? Tegan asked. Darla shook her head, brushing her hands across the smooth butcher block polished table. And she said, no, not at all. I sure wish he was my boyfriend, though. But his athletic outfit was great. It looks very similar to what we use in our designs. With that, Tegan's eyes lit up and said, so on Monday you're going to be at the office. I'll give you instructions on how to get there. But that little dance you had, maybe that guy, maybe you'll meet him again. You're just going to have to walk up and down that walkway every day. And that's the thing about this job. Tegan paused for Darla to finish her sip of wine. And Darla asked, well, what do you mean? I mean, isn't this mostly an office job here? And Tegan shook her head. No, that's the best part. I mean, in Minneapolis, you probably hang out at the office most of the time. But my job, they literally want me out on the city 3, even 4 days a week, seeing what people are wearing and seeing what people are doing. I mean, we're an outdoor athletic company for real people, right? Absolutely, and that's why I like working for this company, Darla said. It's just Minneapolis, it's not exactly the land of fit and active. Well, you've definitely come to the right place then, Tegan said. Right then, the server came up with the dishes for Darla and Tegan and laid them out as both women took the napkins off their table and put them in their lap. As the women set down the white plates on the plank wood table, Darla's jaw dropped open at the artistry and presentation of the fish laid over a bed of lentils and rice with a side of spring arugula and some fries. And as soon as the server left, Darla asked Tegan, so what's up with the fries with the fish? I mean, this is a beautiful presentation. Tegan said, fries, what do you mean by that? Darla pointed to the French fries and said, these, the fries. At that, Tegan laughed out loud, or laughed quietly and said, honey, we call those chips here and in England. You've been to England, haven't you? Yes, but only for 2 days. I didn't even get to really experience it. Man, this 8-week trip's going to be incredible. So you call them chips. Tegan nodded her head and picked up her knife and began cutting into her chicken. As she sliced open the crispy top, juices flowed out and a waft of freshly grilled scent filled the space between them, and she said, good gosh, how that chicken smells incredible. Try your fish. Darla picked up the knife and sliced into the fish, and then she used her fork and pressed into it and brought it up to her nose and took a gentle sniff, and her eyes lit up. Oh my gosh, this isn't some trout or something like I get at home. Tegan shook her head. No way. Whatever trout is, I have no idea, but that's not what you get here. Darla placed the piece of fish in her mouth and began chewing. It was still hot, so she set her fork down and began waving her mouth and said, oh my gosh, this is super hot, but I cannot believe how good this tastes. The women continued eating their meal for several minutes, chatting about the experience of being in Manly in the coastal neighborhood on the suburbs of Sydney, when Tegan finally brought up some of the work aspects that Darla was going to have to deal with. And Tegan said, well, here's the best part. Like I told you, you get to go out 3 or 4 days, and your goal as product line manager is simply to see what people are wearing, see if you can find people wearing our clothes, and really talk to them. That's one of the goals we have for you here. So I literally they didn't tell me this in the briefing when I came here from Minneapolis. Darla retorted. The server walked by and looked down and interrupted them and said, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Is everything okay? Both women looked up and nodded emphatically. Darla's bunned up, dark blonde hair shook around her head, while Tegan's pixie cut brown hair swished about her eyes as she pushed up her tortoiseshell glasses. And they both said, no, this is incredible, thank you, no problems at all. The server excused herself and then left. And then Tegan said, it's always amazing how servers come up and they catch you right with your mouth full. Sure, let's see. And Darla replied, absolutely, that happens in America too. That's like a universal thing, isn't it? It is, Tegan said. So anyway, Tegan continued, you get to actually go out and interact with people. We're going to connect you with a gym that we're working with. The owner is incredible. They've got the same angle as we do. Really, like athletic products for real people? I thought gyms were all about, the muscle and the iron. Tegan shook her head and reached up and pushed her glasses up again and said, no, in fact, there's a guy that has started a gym and he's got 14 or 16 stores around Sydney, and he's doing great. He's the exact style person that we need to connect with. I've met the owner and he's great. And I'll arrange an introduction for you. Darla didn't give a second thought about it and said, oh, perfect. I'll at least be able to meet people and get going pretty quick. Half an hour later, they had finished their lunch and paid, and then they walked outside on the wharf and crossed the street and began walking along, taking in the sights and watching the motorboats and sailboats go by as they watched one of the ferries cross. Tegan pointed out the ferry and said, that's one of the ones that you'll be using. There's the slow ferry that stops at multiple places and takes a while, but you're going to want to take the fast ferry. After a couple days, the slow ferry is, well, Darla smiled as they leaned against the stainless steel railing. It's slow. I would suspect that you'll want to get going quick. And Darla said, no way. I mean, if I get to putter along in the water and watch that crazy opera house go by, I'll take the slow boat anytime I want. Well, Darla, I've got to get going. I'll meet with you on Monday, and we'll get things going. I'll introduce you to a couple friends and our coworkers and get you started. But really, the rest of the week is up. The weekend is up to you. She lifted up her hand and looked at her Apple Watch, her diamond ring sparkling in the light. Darla looked down and noticed it, but didn't say anything. Darla looked down and said, oh, that is a beautiful wedding ring. It's pretty crazy, if you don't mind my asking. And Tegan shook her head and said, no, not at all. What do you want to know? And Darla pointed out the ring. I've noticed women here have much more understated wedding bands and engagement sets than we do in America. At that, Tegan opened her eyes and nodded and said, Americans seem to want to flaunt everything they have. We're a much more chilled out country. And with that, Tegan lowered her arm and unconsciously rubbed her hand on the wedding band and said, "No, that's not how we roll in Australia. We're much more laid back than you guys. So you're going to have to chill a little bit while you're here." And Darla said, "Well, a little bit of chill wouldn't be a bad thing, and maybe I'll meet some more hunky guys on the walkway." With that, they hugged and parted ways as Tegan walked back to her car and hopped into it. Darla decided to stroll back to the apartment she had, enjoying the scenery as she walked along the harbor, pine trees overhead, with the cool shade and the warm breeze brushing across her body. Perfect. Okay, there we go. All right. How'd that Livestream go? Okay. Thank you. All right, let me stop my recording so I don't record all these comments. Done. Hi, Nancy. Hi, Melissa. Thank you very much for stopping by my live stream here. I just finished up my live stream recording. Use the voice recorder app here. And let's see how many words I clocked onto this morning. One moment. I guess I can put my iPad down. But what fun would that be, right? Okay, here we go. Opening Scrivener, at least trying to. And paste text. Alrighty. 2,707 words. Oh yeah, I love it. Good. Alright, that was chapter 2 of Harbor Lights in Sydney, part of my Escape to Australia series. I do all these videos with the Write With Me live streams, but also check out my regular videos where I do recordings of almost every chapter that I can possibly record, and I put them on my YouTube channel. That way you can actually watch me write the book or dictate the book as I go along, and you can see what it originally sounded like coming out of my mouth and what you finally get when I'm completed with the book. There's a lot of editing that goes into these things. I sent out one of my books like, oh gosh, I need more editing on that bad boy. So it was fun. Oh, the word count, Melissa asked, the word count was 2,707 words in, how long did that take? In 20 minutes. 20 minutes. Perfect. There we go, 2,700 words in 20 minutes. So that's how I write my books, and you can actually go into my playlists and scroll through and watch literally like story time. Now, of course, this is all raw dictation, so there's a lot of stumbles and ums and things that I got to look up as I'm going along. But by the time the book gets edited, you can actually almost do a little bit of a read along. It's kind of a fun thing to try. Thank you very much for watching. Again, please check out Aaron Belsing, where you can check out the Escape to Australia series, but also my Maui Desire series, and get a free download of Moonlight at Wailea. Also, I am a thriller writer at aaronrlinsdau.com. With Black Ice is a free novel that you can download. And thank you very much for watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you soon.